Welcome, fans, to a very special and somber edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. I'm Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy, and very pleased to have on the man who will be speaking on a couple of topics today. First and foremost, the untimely passing of the hardcore icon legend Sabu, and of course, doing a retrospect 1 week later of the immense undertaking that he was responsible for pulling off so successfully, creatively, and in the fans' eyes. TWA One and Done. I'm very pleased to welcome Mr. Ragni, Chubby, Dudley, and this is what kind of a warrior this man is. He is under the weather, and he got himself up to do this show. So thank you very much, Bay.
No, thank you, brother. Over the last year, there was a lot of highs and lows, and one of the highs was definitely the newfound friendship that I have with you. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate all the collaboration that we did, and man, your efforts in that show, which we'll touch on, some of it need to be recognized and put over. But I guess first and foremost, the wrestling world is talking about the passing of Terry Brunk Sabu at the age of 60. I know it hit everybody in Philly really, really hard because he was there last weekend and May 3rd, and seemed to be in good spirits and in good health. What was your immediate thought when you heard that the world lost such a legend?
I was shocked, still shocked. I've been laying in bed since Saturday. It's the first time I actually got out of bed besides going to the bathroom, and I woke up early yesterday afternoon from taking a late nap, and my phone was blowing up, and I'm like, how could this be? This just makes no sense.
Yeah, I would say that, it's always hard when you lose someone so beloved in the industry at an early age, but there didn't seem to be any precursors to Sabu's passing, and no cause of death at this time, and we won't speculate on that here. But he seemed to be, he just wrestled his before I correct myself, what was supposed to be his last match against Joey Janela about a month ago at the spring break event. And then I saw an interview with him today where he said that he wasn't happy with that match. He got knocked out in one spot, and he had so much else planned, and he was going to wrestle another one. So to say that it was unexpected is an understatement. Before we talk about how you first met Sabu and some of the highlights of your relationship throughout the years, can you talk about how he was booked for One and Done and how that came together?
The crazy thing is, when we first started doing the booking for it, Sabu had just announced he wanted to do one last match, a retirement match. I said to Joel, bang, boom. It's like the storybook ending. It's writing itself. That's our main event right there. And I got Sabu's number, gave it to Joel. Joel reached out to him, and they talked. And he booked him for the con, but he said to do his last match, Sabu gave Joel this 6-figure fucking figure. So Joel called me and laughing. He's like, he wants X amount. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, all right, well, that's off the table. So I brought it up to him over the weekend when we were at the bar doing shots. And he said to me, he told me what he got in Vegas for that match. And he said, I would have did it here for that same price, which was exuberantly less. He goes, I would have did it here because it would definitely been more fitting here in this building. So I said to him, I said, well, why didn't you fucking say something? Why didn't you open your mouth? He said Joel didn't ask. He said Joel didn't try to, talk and haggle with it. I said, well, once you said that figure, of course not. He didn't think you were going to come off that figure. And he said, that's the figure I wanted from WWE or AEW. I wasn't expecting somebody like Joel or in Vegas to give me that type of money.
Do you think I don't know if you saw that that last match, but it's bits of it,
just little clips here and there. I mean, honestly, I was disappointed because it wasn't like a true set. I mean, it was just barbed wire in there. You know what I mean? It wasn't. There was like nothing to it. It was just Sabu taking crazy spots and bumps, and that was it. Like, I definitely feel he could have went out on a much better note. Could his body have handled it? I don't know. That I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. But in terms of the WrestleCon, you touched on the fact that he was at the bar doing shots, and I know you took this video that I'm going to play. That is perhaps the most cherished piece of video that DJ Immortal has of him and Sabu toasting his retirement. I'll just play it. It's about 7 seconds long, but I think it's worthy of a shot here.
I mean, 13 years for Sabu. Thanks for years of happy retirement.
2376.
So he was obviously having a good time. I know that you did some with him, and how when the day was over, the WrestleCon was over. Did you have any parting words with him?
I honestly no. I didn't even see him leave because he didn't stick around for the show. So I didn't even see him leave. I don't know if he left that day. I know my friend Arlene, who she does travel agency stuff on the side. She handled everything for Joel. She said to me, she actually, as like a customer service thing, she reached out to everybody midweek, and she said she talked to Sabu on Wednesday.
Yeah, it goes to show how tenuous life can be. And I think even though he did not wrestle at TWA One and Done, which would have been fantastic. I know a lot of the fans were speculating that he was going to be the mystery partner of Shane Douglas. Yeah,
I had gotten that one a lot. Yeah, and I said every time somebody said that to me, I said I wish.
Mm-hmm. I think it was fitting that his last ever public appearance was at that event, and even though he did not wrestle there, he was there in the building, and you could tell that the fans that were there really enjoyed seeing him. But let's rewind the tape to the first time.
You know what, too? He got to be there with a lot of his friends and say his goodbye. You know what I mean? Not knowing it was going to be a final goodbye, but Todd and Hack and Salmon or Shane and Francine and some of the others, Gary, getting to say goodbye to them, not knowing it's the final goodbye. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very, very, very good point, and I think it would have been very even more tragic if some of those folks that knew and worked with him from the 90s, including yourself, didn't have that opportunity. Can you talk about when you first met Terry and some of the highlights? I'm sure there are a lot of your relationship with him over the years.
It's funny because he was a funny dude, and we had a good relationship. And it's last weekend, Friday night, when I got to the hotel, he was sitting outside by himself, and I went over to him, introduced myself to him, and I said, "I bet you don't remember me." And he's like, "You ain't fucking Chubby Dudley. Stop ribbing me." And I said this to him. I said, "I'll make you remember real quick." I said, back in the day, we were doing a show. I think it was in Glen Olden, Pennsylvania. And I used to have some girls who would come to the show for me, and they started dressing like a Dudley. And Sabu looked out the curtain. He's like, "Who the fuck are these girls dressing like Dudleys?" And everybody pointed to me. And he started laughing. He's like, "Chubby's got chubby chasers." And I told him, and he fucking busted up. He's like, "It is you." So, I mean, he was just a fun dude, a good dude, always, floating around with fucking Fonzie and Rob Van Dam, and always just, he wasn't like over the top like you would think as his character is, but he was the guy that seemed like he always slid in those one-liners that would just break the room up.
Yeah, I was shocked how well, not shocked, but met him a couple of times over the years. The last time before the weekend was in Las Vegas, and he was always one of the most fan friendly individuals that you could ever meet. He was, he had a table with, unfortunately, the late Super Genie Melissa, which I'm sure that loss hit him hard too. It's hard to kick out after that, something like that. But he took all the time that the fans wanted to talk to, which is kind of, an inverse that you would expect from a guy that was suicidal, homicidal, and genocidal. Morris Shorthall, who of course you've spoken with many times, the godfather of this channel, said he had a pint with Sabu about 10 years ago, and he had 2 broken ribs from the show an hour before, looking for some hash. Real gentleman.
Too funny.
And he was a mellow dude, no ego, exactly. Yeah. Going kind of what.
I mean, he's the guy that also kind of introduced the whole world of super glue to the business.
Yes.
Didn't have fucking insurance, and he was super gluing his head and body back together.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, as we discussed before we came on air, without Sabu, there would be no Extreme, and I think now that, unfortunately, that he's passed, if you look on social media the last day, everybody is saying, this guy was a pioneer, an innovator. Even though he came from that hardcore lineage, given the fact that his uncle was the original Sheik, he really blazed a trail across. He was at FMW, of course, in ECW, and then the latter part of his career after his WWE and TNA runs, he was still very active in the indies. How much of a real true statement is it that Sabu really didn't get the due that he deserved? And no disrespect to someone like Mick Foley, who also was a pioneer, but he went on to become, a WWE superstar, legend in and of itself. That next step seemed to elude Sabu. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can say there'd be no Extreme without Sabu. There would have been Extreme, but it would not have been Extreme. You know what I mean? It's like he was the true definition of Extreme, and there was nothing like him before, and in reality, there's nothing like him after. And I watched that guy. I mean, he was a human wrecking machine to his own body, even more so to anybody else's body. I watched that guy break his ankle numerous times, landing on guardrails and tables the wrong way, and you seeing the ankle going, and he still gets up and goes. How many times did he break his back, break his neck, and still get up and finish the match and keep going? Like, that guy was just, there'll never be another Sabu. And he was, when he hit that scene in when he hit ECW in '93, I remember getting starting to get the tapes in the tape trading days of him out in him in Detroit, and 1-2-3 Kid and him were having some matches that shows that he was co-promoting with Dennis Carluzzo. So then Dennis started bringing him into the area, and then it exploded into him jumping ship to ECW. But There's just he like a New Jack. New Jack was kind of like that character as well, where they were too extreme for WWE. They could never have been in that type of company because they were just too extreme in and out of the ring. That was not their makeup to be. Mick was able to turn it off when he was out of the ring, and Mick's this big, lovable gentleman guy, and not that Sabu and New Jack weren't, but they were not politically correct at all, and they were always, pedal to the metal, ready to go. So I personally never saw it working like that for them. But it's a shame because they deserved that. They deserved those big paydays. They deserved those accolades from the bigger companies. And thank God there's already a Sabu banner. I don't have to start a campaign for another banner.
Yeah, really. That was dropped in what, 2010 in the arena?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Turning to, ECW, how much of and you and I are both friends with Todd Gordon, a great guy. I think Todd is starting to get his due for how responsible he was ultimately for the amazing success of ECW. But what kind of a debt do you think Paul Heyman owes Sabu? Because Sabu was that company. Can you expand on that a little bit? That Sabu really broke ECW to several next levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like we said, he was that definition, the visual definition of extreme, and everything he did was extreme. And the way Paul used them was perfect. And then when they, the prime example is when they had that falling out, and he went back and worked the show for Dennis, which I did the same thing. I went and worked the show for Dennis that same night, and I walked into Sabu sitting there. It was our locker room was a classroom, and he's sitting in like a school desk, taping up his wrist and everything. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? And he worked Devon Storm that night, and that was the night that put Devon Storm on the which then Devon ended up jumping ship to ECW, and they did the whole lights out surprise and brought Sabu back, which tore the house down. Sabu was he was extreme. He was ECW, and Paul owes eternal debt and gratitude to Sabu. And I don't know if I haven't seen anything, if he's said anything yet. I'm sure he'll release some type of statement at some point.
Yeah, he's probably taken it in. Morris says, and he points out, yes, he interviewed Sabu, and I said, I'm glad we have that in the archive. He said he wanted one more match to retire, and that was about 4 years ago, Brock Lesnar. That would have been something.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
Probably a clash of styles, to say the least.
Yeah.
Talking about, the iconic feuds and rivalries that he had, and there were a few. I wanted to get your take on, when you think of classic ECW, the stuff that brought, all the attention from the magazines, the tape traders, and ultimately mainstream wrestling business. How important was the program that Sabu had with Taz? And did you see Taz's really heartfelt comments on Sabu's passing? Was that not a program and a feud that will stand the test of time from them all?
I was at ECW at that point, and they had started early on when I was still there, started teasing the build-up. But that year later, when it finally happened, the big payoff, the pay-per-view and everything, that feud and that build-up, come on. That just, there might not be a much better feud in history of that build-up like that. It was just done picture perfect. And like Taz said, he owed owes Sabu so much for getting him over.
Yeah, there appear, through various accounts over the years, Taz said that at one point there was like legitimate heat between the two, and that year build up. I don't think the way that the business moves so quickly now, I don't think we'll see anything like that again. And Cody Rhodes, the situation of the WWE a year ago about finishing the story, yeah, that's elongated, but the way that was so intricately booked and laid out with the payoff at the end, I mean that's got to be one of the best of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of his high risk style, I was always shocked, especially in later years, of the massive toll that it took on his body. Of course, that very famous spinal cord injury from Benoit at November to Remember in '94, broken jaw and neck from Tazplex through a table in '98. Then he had a serious back injury and TNA in 2004. And also, I guess, against Samoa Joe, broke his forearm in 2006. The man was resilient. Not even talking about who can ever forget in the pantheon of ECW when his he was caught in the barbed wire and super glued and was calling for Fonzie to bring him tape. As a fan watching that, I was immediately mesmerized and thought, this guy is the most badass MF I've ever seen.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the stuff he did, all you can just keep saying is extreme. It was so over the top, and like that barbed wire stuff. I was just saw that fire match in Japan. Somebody had shared that out yesterday, and I just remember, Tape Trader days again, buying that tape, and I'm like, what were they thinking? Like, why would they think this was a good idea? Like,
unbelievable. But what also struck me about Sabu throughout the time that he was talking about his injuries was the fact that he no-sold it. He was like, it's not as bad as it looks. And I'm like, holy cow, how could it not be as bad as it looks? The man seemed to have, Mick Foley gets a lot of credit for a massive pain tolerance, but it seemed like Sabu had an unending ability to absorb pain.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. To do that stuff. I mean, like I said earlier, he was flipping through multiple tables in a night, hitting guardrails and injuring himself more than he's injuring the person that's going through the table. I mean, the damage he did on his body, and it was truly for the love of the business. I mean, the guy loved the business. He like idolized his uncle and worshipped what his uncle did, and he took what his uncle did and really just took it to a whole different level. And it was just another world. Like he did things that he set a whole new generation on its path. And we see all these kids, doing all the flips and all this crazy stuff and all now today. And if it wasn't for Sabu, we wouldn't have seen none of this stuff.
100%. Morris is saying, Bay, will you tell Jack the pizza story? If he hasn't heard it, please. I'm not aware of the pizza story. Can you illuminate me on that one?
The pizza story.
Involving Sabu, I take it? Drawing a blank?
Yeah, give me a hit.
We'll get back to that. One of Noah Baird is saying Hannibal Lecter's entrances were epic. That's something that was equally innovative in its time for Sabu. But is it true that he wasn't comfortable with that presentation? And he just ditched it?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard he didn't like it. I mean, I thought it was perfect for the time, but it wasn't needed to, carry on. I mean, I thought it was just perfect the way it was the first few times, first couple months or whatever. Wheeling him out on the gurney with 911 and the Lecter mask. I thought that was perfect, but
Mhm.
it was something that wasn't needed to carry on.
Yeah, definitely memorable. Morris is saying Taz Pizza Shop.
When Taz called me at the pizza shop I was working at and threatened me. After I had left ECW, I went and started working for Dennis Carluzzo, NWA New Jersey, and one week I think I worked one weekend, I worked Jason Knight, and that following Monday or Tuesday, I'm getting a call from Taz at the pizza shop one day, threatening to come stretch me if I don't stop doing the Dudley gimmick on the indie circuit. I was like, oh, all right. Like, and I still, it's 30 fucking years later, whatever it is. I think it's hysterical, and I laugh about it, and I still say if I ever get the chance to ask Taz and meet him, was he really going to come to my work and beat me up? Like, I want to know. I mean, we can laugh about it now, but and I understand why he did it. I get it.
Yeah, I've experienced a lot of empty threats the last week too. So that seems to be something that happens in the business, and probably give it not a whole lot of credibility. To close the book on Sabu, though, if you, this is obviously a guy, and I know I talked to a lot of the ECW folks uh, on the weekend in Philly, and the consensus is that ECW, the original ECW, not WWE, ECW, is one of these phenomenons that will never die, that has such a hardcore and passionate fan base that it's going to be remembered till the end. Do you think Sabu, generations from now, when they pull up YouTube or whatever the platform is, of course it'll be YouTube because YouTube is omnipresent, but whatever the platform is, Sabu will get more of the credit that even though he didn't have that, as we discussed, that WWF or WWE run similar to New Jack, but I think Sabu even more so. Do you think history will regard him as getting the place that he deserves as the absolute innovator, pioneer, and legend that he is to not only extreme but professional wrestling as a whole?
I think so. I think, look, there's a reason, like you said, like ECW 25, 30 years later is still as popular or not, is popular or not. All right, help me say that.
As popular or more popular than it ever was.
Thank you. Because so many of kids these days are going onto YouTube and they're finding this stuff. And I have a lot of people who come to me and they never got to go to the ECW arena. They never got to experience ECW live. They never got to be a part of the fan base that was just as vital, as important as the locker room was, and built a lifelong cult following. I mean, ECW is never going to die. It really is never going to die. And we might have lost Sabu. We might have lost New Jack and sadly a bunch of the other boys, but they'll never die. They'll all still be alive in everybody's hearts and souls and on their screens with the magic they created, because it was extreme magic. It really was. And it was very, very important pieces to the puzzle.
I know, being a Canadian, we got a lot of WWF and some independents, Vancouver All-Star Wrestling, and with all deference to them, when I first got a hold of a tape of first it was Eastern, and then ECW and Sabu. I saw Sabu. My perception, my understanding, my love of the business flipped on a dime. And once you saw Sabu do his thing, there was never going any back. You couldn't. Well, I guess you could still appreciate, WWF at the time or whatnot. But when you saw Sabu, you knew this guy was special, and he was presenting professional wrestling in a very special way that you just can't forget. So, on behalf of the entire Cheap Heat Productions Network family, want to extend our heartfelt condolences to Sabu's family, fans, and absolutely know that this man, as you said, Chubby, is not going to be forgotten.
Real quick too, the first time I ever saw Sabu was in a TWA ring, and he was just doing a battle royal, and I saw him come flying in and doing these flips in the ring, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like, just going in a battle royal, he blew me away. And he was very early in this. I mean, this was like 90, 91. So very early in his career. And I was like, whoa, this dude is going to make his mark. And 3 years later, he was changing the business.
So I guess the bottom line from a global perspective is life is short, it's precious. And if you have a chance to see Chubby, if you have a chance to see the franchise, if you have a chance to see Francine, if you have a chance to see Todd Gordon, if you have a chance to see Sandman, all those ECW legends, make sure you do, because who knows, they could be gone. And I will say, all of the aforementioned, including yourself, that I had the pleasure of interacting with on May 3rd, they were absolutely awesome people, and you should take full advantage to go see them. They're at a show, they're doing a Comic-Con or whatnot. Go down and see them, because you'll kick yourself if you don't.
I felt bad afterwards, because when I heard yesterday that he passed, a lot of people said to me they were coming and did not show up, and I thought those my exact sentiments. I'm like, you never know when, God forbid, we're going to lose somebody. And whether it's an ECW person or a TWA person, NWA person, whoever it may be, one of these legends, it's a shame. It's a shame. So you never know when that last chance is to see somebody. So people need to get out there if they can and meet their heroes and see them before it's too late.
Yeah, and in some cases, they could, people say, well, you shouldn't meet your heroes or these legends. I've never been disappointed with any of the ECW folks that I've met, and TWA folks last weekend too, that I've met in real time. They've always, no matter what the circumstance, at a show, at Cauliflower, at a convention, they're great people, and again, take advantage of those opportunities. But Chubby, it's been a little bit over a week. You've had some time to reflect on One and Done. I will say that I extremely enjoyed the privilege of being a part of the show, being in that locker room. Man, that was a friendly locker room. There was so much good mojo going on there. Looking back on all that incredible work you did over a year, now you've had some time to reflect. What's running through your mind aside from, holy shit, I'm not going to do that again?
Right. There was some things I definitely wish I could have changed. There were some things I wish I could have did better. A problem that, for the first 3-4 days of the week after the show, I just kept replaying things in my head, trying to figure out some things. And for example, in your guys' match, we had the run-ins all planned, and I kept thinking about it. I'm like, it didn't come off the way I wanted. And then I was like, it finally hit me, the way they have that gorilla position set up back there, which is an amazing setup they have, and Michael Pancoast, absolutely fucking aces. Great fucking guy, great setup, and we had a fucking ball. And but you're set up back here, and you see it now all the time when people go through the gorilla position to go right out. You know, Triple H and his cronies are right there. We're around the corner. You would have had to get up and go around the corner and down a little hallway they built before they go out in the thing. And I had nobody. I needed headsets and somebody there where I could have said, go, go, go. And it screwed some things up. There was, yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, people kept saying to me during the show, the crowd loves it. The crowd's into it. The crowd's popping. That's all that matters. And I said from day one, this was not going to be a show. This was just a show about nostalgia. And that's the way I sold it from day one, because there was only a couple matches that had younger talent, and it was not really about the younger talent. It was about the legends. So I was not expecting good matches from the legends. I mean, let's face it. How can you? It's just about them being there, getting in and having a good time. And that's what they did. The one standout turns out was the last minute. It's funny, in the last few days we had changes. You know, we had the change situation, your guys' match. Thursday night, I just got back from dinner with my niece in the area, and I get a call that Samantha Starr, Baby Doll's daughter, can't go. She's got concussion syndrome and she's not cleared. So I was saying to myself for months, I know the person. If their spot opens, I know who I want on the show, because this girl's I've been seeing it. I've been seeing it online. She's making a buzz, and I texted Missy Sampson from Bell to Bell. I said, I need Vicky Venuto. Is she available? And 3 minutes later, she said, what do you need her to do? I said, work Tessa. She's like, done. And that turned out to be a match of the night and is creating a buzz. And somebody, I don't know who the fuck has it, but somebody has the full match and they put it up online. And last I saw, midweek, it had like 11, 12,000 views on it.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal encounter.
Yeah.
And talk about a nice person backstage. I know, there's some talk, whatever, that Tessa is difficult to deal with, but I found her to be lovely, great. And so did everybody else that dealt with her. She was great.
She was great. I mean, everybody back there was absolutely phenomenal. I've like I said, the first few days I was really and Mike Johnson, I love you, but he really ripped the show. And I get it, and me and Mike are going to do an interview at some point. And let me say this about Mike Johnson and like you guys as well. From day one, a friendship with Mike Johnson was formed, and he was highly, highly supportive from day one of this whole endeavor. His take on things was a little different. I get it. But I think at the end of the day, the point of the show was to pay tribute to the TWA, Joe Goodhart, Stetson, the Hot Body, Drake, and the late great Larry Winters. And I feel we did that. We did that. We got the banner done, which was a huge undertaking. For a time there, I didn't think it was going to happen. There were some other things that could have been done to honor some other people, and I'll take blame for that. I'll take blame for whatever I need to take blame for. There were some things, like I said, I thought could have came off better, match wise. But overall, It was, like I said, it was about paying tribute. That's what it was about. It was about nostalgia and paying tribute. So
And I think you accomplished that in spades. And as far as the critical review, I think perhaps Mike wasn't aware of the extensive buildup that occurred in terms of some of the matches. Our match in particular, there was a well laid out storyline there. I know he said that it didn't make sense, but if you followed what we were talking about, then it would have made sense.
Yeah.
But aside from all of that, those fans were absolutely into everything that happened out there. The pops were discernible. That there was good heat in spots, and I think that nobody asked for a refund. Everybody went home happy, especially with that final match. That did not disappoint. Chris Wilde against Breaker Morant. That was a really that was a really enjoyable match. Great ending. Great tribute to Breaker. So I think you need to put yourself over more. I know that's not in your nature, but man, you worked your ass off. And I think at the end of the day, professional wrestling and in this case, nostalgia is about fun, and everyone from the crew, the workers, and the fans had a great time. And that is the bottom line. If you want to see, 5-star matches or whatnot, follow New Japan, I guess, or whatever that is. But you more than accomplished your goal. Before we close the book on it, though, speaking of books, how do you think? I know Joel was quite, tired at the end, but how do you think he, I guess, felt? Did you have any opportunity that night when all was said and done to talk to him? Because it really was about him as well.
No, we haven't spoken. It was a. I mean, the sad truth was this was something that started out to be a lot of fun, but it turned halfway through, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, because I haven't spoken to him yet, but I feel our relationship went pretty sour. There was a lot of words were said on both parts because we had a lot of fights, and you were there at the end of the night for those were the final words that we spoke. Was that final fight that night? I tried calling him last Thursday, and I know others have tried calling or texting, and he hasn't responded to anybody. And he told me, leading into those last few weeks, that he was over it, he was done, and he was going to go back into hiding for another 18 years, and he was done with the wrestling business. So, I mean, I get it. It's not the business that Joel was part of 30 plus years ago. It's a completely different business. And Joel's not as remembered as he would like to be. He's sadly, from him canceling that show back in 92, he's had a bad rep that's followed him all these years. And he kept saying it to me. It's funny. He kept saying it to me for the months leading up to the show. That's why people weren't buying advance tickets. And then finally, Mike Johnson reached out to me and said people aren't buying advance tickets because they don't trust Joel because of his past reputation. And I told Joel, and he started laughing. He said, I told you. So it's over. The mission was accomplished. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun. I had fun for as stressful as it was. like I said, I was very depressed a few days afterwards when I got back home. But then I started reaching out to everybody and just thanking everybody. And I probably thanked about 85% of everybody involved. And everybody had majorly positive words for me. So it's not that I was looking for that. I just wanted to let them know I know what they did and I appreciate everything they did. So,
well, if that indeed is the final chapter on the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, I again think that you need to get your flowers for once. Anybody that was there knew what you were doing and recognized that you were the engine behind this. Joel, it's I guess it's sad in a way that I think he was very stressed, a significant financial outlay, but I think he will maybe he will hopefully come around and give you the props that you deserve. But more importantly, from a historical perspective, you did the right thing, worked your ass off, and it was a tremendous event, one that I'll consider the highlight of my career in the business for a long time to come. And for that, I need to thank you for the opportunity and rolling with the adversity that was inflicted upon me at the last minute. It all worked out for the best, including in our match. Got a shout out, Super Crazy. What an amazing guy to deal with. Hell of a lot of fun.
I'll never do shots of tequila without going super lazy.
That was tremendous.
That was hysterical. The funny part was, at one point after the convention, I walked up to the dressing room upstairs, and the refs were sitting around the table. It was like the old refs meeting, and I talked to them, and all of a sudden, like, I think it was Mullen or somebody, like, moved, and I see legs. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, who the hell's that? They're like, Super Crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. What a guy. Made it back safe to Japan. Good. Also thank referee Jim Molyneux. Speaking of him, excellent job in that match. And last but not least, my friend and broadcast partner, the king of the streets, the kingpin, Angel Medina, who when he got the call was
what a great dude. What a great dude. From the instant the second I met that dude, I was like, this dude is just a beautiful person.
Yeah, real quality guy, and got a hell of a sense of humor too. So when we're in the same city at the same time, it's always a good time, and we sure did. So, Chubby, I again want to thank you for everything that you did for us and having us on. And I agree. I think it's great that out of this we've formed a friendship. And please, don't be a stranger. I'm sure we'll talk. And if you're ever cooking up any more promotional schemes, please make sure and let me know.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for watching this tribute to Sabu, RIP to the legend, and Chubby for his comments for that, and wrapping up TWA One and Done. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, I'm Jack Kilby. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions.